Dark comes down like a bird in flight, and most good people has gone to rest.
Now for songs of our land and our people, our history and our customs. Here is Terry Gilyson, the solitary singer.
Hi there, friends and neighbors. This is Terry Gilyson, the solitary singer, dropping by for a 15-minute gathering with some of the folk songs and ballads that fit into the history and character of our grand old country. The birth of the ballad is usually derived from strange and varied sources. It can be a harrowing story of a storm on the high seas, a log jam on a river, stampede on the range, or a gold strike in the desert, or even a feud in the mountains, and perhaps a few outstanding complaints about a jail that someone might be temporarily housed in. Lots of the jail songs are written to blow off a little steam one way or another, but most of them are drawn from actual happenings in the lives of men where luxuries of a quiet, normal life have no place in the world of people who are struggling to keep their heads above water. Here's a song from the complaint department called Durant Jail, or Hard Times Poor Boy, which has reverberated from one prison wall to another for almost 70 years. It has many versions, this one being the Durant, Oklahoma interpretation.
The Durant jail beats no jail at all. If you want to have the miseries, go to Wichita Falls. It's hard times in Durant jail. It's hard times, poor boy. It's straight from your carriage right into your cell. It's just like living in the bottom of a well. It's hard times in Durant jail. It's hard times, poor boy. And here's to the cook, oh, I wish he were dead, from eating his boiled beef and old cornbread. It's hard times in Durant jail. It's hard times, poor boy. And when we lay down, we're covered with fleas. They'll eat a man's feet off, slap up to his knees. It's hard times in Durant jail. It's hard times, poor boy. Then I wrote to my mother to send me a knife, 'cause the lice and the chinches has threatened my life. It's hard times in Durant jail. It's hard times, poor boy. Oh, here's to the lawyer, he'll come to your jail and tell you he'll clear you in spite of no bail. It's hard times in Durant jail. It's hard times, poor boy. But your money he'll get before he will rest, then tell you to plead guilty because he thinks it's the best. It's hard times in Durant jail. It's hard times, poor boy. But for gambling and stealing I never shall fail, and I don't give a darn for lying in jail. It's hard times in Durant jail. It's hard times, poor boy. And now I have come to the end of my song. I'll leave it to the boys as I go along. It's hard times in Durant jail. It's hard times, poor boy.
Another hard times ballad that finds its origin from a prison deep in the South is the famous ballad called Coon Can Game. Although it's another prison song, the story this time isn't taken up with a few choice descriptions of the jailhouse, as is usually the case. Instead, it gives a very dramatic account of the reasons for being put in jail. And somehow the sincerity of the story and the simple yet tragic approach to a man who's doomed to years of loneliness make this one of the most outstanding jail songs I've ever heard. Coon Can is a card game, very much in the order of gin rummy, which is played quite frequently in the South, and in this case is used as the title of the song only because it appears in the first line. Strangely enough, many titles of folk songs are made this way.
I sat down to coon can game, but couldn't play my hand. I was thinking about the woman I loved, run away with another man. Run away with another man, poor boy, run away with another man. I was thinking about the woman I loved, run away with another man. I went down to the train depot, train came a-rumbling by. I looked in the window, saw the woman I loved, and I hung my head and cried. Hung my head and cried, poor boy, I hung my head and cried. I looked in the window, saw the woman I loved, and I hung my head and cried. I jumped right on the train platform, walked right down the aisle. I pulled out my 40-some-odd and I shot that sinful child. Shot that sinful child, poor boy, shot that sinful child. I pulled out my 40-some-odd and I shot that sinful child. They took me to the big courthouse, Judge, he looked at me. I said, oh kind-hearted judge, what am it going to be? What am it going to be, poor boy, what am it going to be? I said, oh kind-hearted judge, what am it going to be? The judge, he heard the contract read, clerk, he took it down. They handed me over to the contractor, now I'm penitentiary bound. Now I'm penitentiary bound, poor boy, now I'm penitentiary bound. They handed me over to the contractor, now I'm penitentiary bound. The night was cold and stormy, and it sure did look like rain. I ain't got a friend in the whole wide world, nobody knows my name. Nobody knows my name, poor boy, nobody knows my name. I ain't got a friend in the whole wide world, nobody knows my name. My mother's in the cold, cold ground, father's ran away. My sister married a gambling man, now I'm gonna stray. Now I'm gonna stray, poor boy, now I'm gonna stray. Sister married a gambling man, now I'm gonna stray. Oh, boy.
Not too long after the Civil War, while there was still a great deal of unrest in the nation, there were many men, especially from the South, who had no homes to return to, and even if they did, some of them had no incentive to return. So, like a lot of restless men who had been through a severe emotional strain, as well as physical privations, they turned to the roads, heading most generally to the west, and just kept on moving, never caring whether they settled down or not. Just wandering. And that's the name of this next beautiful ballad that was sung at this time. A song that's as haunting and restless as any I have ever heard.
My daddy's an engineer, my brother drives a hack, my sister takes in washing, and the baby boy's a jack. And it looks like I'm never gonna cease my wandering. I'm always a-wandering, both early and late, to New York City, to the Golden Gate. And it looks like I'm never gonna cease my wandering. Been a-working in the army, been a-working on the farm. All I got to show for it is a muscle in my arm. And it looks like I'm never gonna cease my wandering. Been a-digging at the coal, been a-shoveling too, been a-building up the fire so it can burn me when I'm through. And it looks like I'm never gonna cease my wandering.
Perhaps the most popular song among all the old-time cowboys was a ballad called the Lone Star Trail, or sometimes the Chisholm Trail. It went along easily with the monotonous drive on the cattle trail when the great herds were driven up from Texas to Dodge City, Kansas. That's the city that Wyatt Earp had to run with an iron fist and shotgun, you know. The many verses of this song were added to like limericks, very much on the spur of the moment, involving such daily activities as bacon and beans for breakfast, the horse they happened to be riding, or the kind of day it was, like a sudden rainstorm. And they'd sing about the slow, pokey ways of the cattle. It's a happy song because it speaks of life on the range at a time when the boys were really feeling their best. They knew that at the end of the drive there'd be money to spend, women to see, and plenty of liquid for the parched throats. So let's take a little ride on the Lone Star Trail.
I started on the trail on June 23rd, been a punch Tex cattle on the Lone Star Trail. Come-a-kai-I-P-P-A, come-a-kai-I-P-P-A. It's cloudy in the west, looking like rain. My darned old slicker's in the wagon again. Come-a-kai-I-P-P-A, come-a-kai-I-P-P-A. Slicker in the wagon and it's getting mighty cold, and the longhorn sons of guns are getting hard to hold. Come-a-kai-I-P-P-A, come-a-kai-I-P-P-A. We'll saddle up, boys, no matter how it rains, 'cause the doggone cattle have scattered on the plains. Come-a-kai-I-P-P-A. I'm on the best horse, going on the run, quickest shooting cowboy ever pulled a gun. Come-a-kai-I-P-P-A, come-a-kai-I-P-P-A. I flushed him on the left, couldn't make him stop, but I can run as long as an 8-day clock. Come-a-kai-I-P-P-A, come-a-kai-I-P-P-A. Stray in the herd and the boss said kill it, so I shot him in the rump with the handle of the skillet. Come-a-kai-I-P-P-A, come-a-kai-I-P-P-A. Oh, I got a squaw, prettiest gal you ever saw, and she lives on the bank of the deep cedar draw. Come-a-kai-I-P-P-A, come-a-kai-I-P-P-A. Going back to town to draw my money, then I'm going back home to see my honey. Come-a-kai-I-P-P-A, come-a-kai-I-P-P-A. Then I sell my saddle and I buy me a plow. You'll never see me roping any doggone cow. Come-a-kai-I-P-P-A, come-a-kai-I-P-P-A.
Well, friends, I'm kind of out of breath. I see that whether we want to or not, we're going to have to leave the trail anyhow, because my old clock is telling me it's time to move on. But I'll be back in just a few days with some more of America's songs, and I hope you'll be sitting around the fire with me at this time. This is Terry Gilkyson saying that if you have any requests for folk songs or ballads that you haven't heard, or songs that you'd like to hear again, send them to the Solitary Singer, care of Armed Forces Radio Service, Los Angeles, California, USA. This is Terry Gilkyson saying so long for a little while.
Night comes down like a heron's wing, and honeysuckle is in the air.
The Solitary Singer was produced by Chief Petty Officer Stuart Ledoux. This is the United States Armed Forces Radio Service, the voice of information and education.
Down in the swamp by a firefly lamp, an old frog fiddles his double bass. Over the hill a whippoorwill calls his song from a secret place. We sing our best when nobody's listening, nobody's listening but me. Dark comes down like a bird in flight, and most good people has gone to rest. But us poor fools that wakes at night, when we is lonely, we sings our best.